Let's start in downtown Miami, where the Heat made some work of the Sixers last night, 120-85. Obviously, I could sit here and gloat about the Heat all day, but we know that they're a good team, well-coached, well-run. Shoot from three, saw Duncan Robinson sighting. And, they play good defense. But let's not talk about the Heat right now. We can talk about James Harden. Because after that win over the Heat, we all kind of maybe got a little bit excited. And it was something to be excited about. James Harden is an exciting player. He's one of the greatest offensive players in NBA history. To see a performance like that from him in Philadelphia, to feel the excitement of the Sixers fans, to see that fire in his eyes again, even, at the demise of the Heat, was fun to watch. Because you can enjoy a great basketball player having a moment. But it might just be that. Overall, that game for the Sixers was brutal last night, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But focusing on James Harden, it does appear at this point that we have a solid book on what James Harden is, which is a really talented scorer, had a 5-year stretch where he averaged 32 points a game, kind of took advantage of the rules, which I have no problem with. If you are a player whose skill leans into getting to the free throw line and getting calls, do that. The problem is you're not going to get those calls in the postseason. And that's where things shift for James Harden. I felt like James Harden, out of everyone in the postseason, had the most pressure on him. You can talk about the Nets. I didn't think the Nets had really any pressure on them. I had no expectations for the Nets in this postseason. Giannis has already proven himself. Who else really had anything to prove in this postseason? What was the team that made a big move during the season to get the star? Well, that was the Sixers. And James Harden has now forced his way out of 2 teams in the last 2 years. And it seems again that we are at a place where it doesn't really fit. Now, obviously, the series is not over. So maybe all of this is premature. But if you look at his performances throughout this series, he has had one standout performance, and his second half performances, which you would mostly call important and or clutch time, he has been mostly brutal outside of game 4 where he had 18. Game 1, for our radio audience, 4 points, no threes. Game 2, 4 points, no threes. Game 3, 2 points, no threes in the second half. Game 4, obviously, huge performance. And game 5 last night, 4 points in the second half, went 1 for 3 from the 3-point line. And that's kind of what James Harden is in the postseason. Now, had he been playing at an extreme level during the regular season, then maybe this would be particularly surprising. But this is why we were having the conversation about if James Harden is washed. I don't necessarily believe he is, but I also don't think we can call him a winner at this point. He is a great regular season player who puts up a ton of points, who does get his team to the postseason, and then burns out. He's made it past the second round in 8 of his 12 playoff appearances. He's went to the finals once. Obviously, that was with OKC a million years ago. He's just an example of a high-use player that's awesome during the regular season and can't sustain it in the playoffs. And at this point, 13 years in, is there another level that he can get to? I don't know if there is. And I think it's fair to question that at this point. He's the second star. You can't have effort be the issue. Joel Embiid, in this particular situation, which I'll get to in a moment, is not my question when it comes to the Sixers. If you force your way out of 2 teams, if you come into the Sixers with the expectations that James Harden should have as a superstar that he is, you should be more consistent with your performances. We have a pretty big sample size of his performances, not just with the Sixers, but in his career, in clutch time, and in the playoffs. It's not what it needs to be for a superstar level player. And you can talk about how things went overall as a team, and we will. But James Harden needed to be the juice last night. And not only was he not the juice, he was not good. And that is a desperate situation for the Sixers. Now, transitioning to the other side of things, Joel Embiid. Obviously, I've said over and over again, I think Joel Embiid is the MVP of the league. But last night was a brutal performance for the Sixers. Not just because they couldn't shoot, not because they were trying and things weren't falling and things just started to spiral or the Heat shot some obscene amount of threes or anything like that. There really just was no effort. There was nothing there. They were giving me nothing. And how does that happen with a great team in the playoffs, a team of professionals? You just have no energy and no effort. I don't think that Joel Embiid is upset about not winning the MVP. I think he has a broken face and a torn ligament in his thumb. He is scraping himself up and dragging up and down the floor, giving everything that he has for this team that he is the leader of. But if Joel Embiid is a little down on the energy side, I'm not going to really lay that at Joel Embiid's feet at this point. You have James Harden. Doc Rivers needs to be held accountable in this situation. Someone else has to step up. I mean, Joel is giving everything he has. I don't think he's thinking about the MVP at all. How long ago was that? I don't even really want to keep talking about the MVP, but here we are. Joel Embiid is not giving low energy because of the MVP. He has a broken face. He had a light concussion and light sensitivity and couldn't get out of bed for a week. His face is broken and he got hit again. I have never had a broken face, but I imagine it is quite painful. And I get it. You're supposed to play through injuries in the playoffs, but I do think you deserve a little bit of respect when you're falling apart. You are an MVP candidate and your second biggest star, the guy who's supposed to lift the team up when you are down, is giving zero energy and not performing at the level that he is expected to. I'm not putting this on Joel Embiid. He's giving everything he can. He's not distracted because of the MVP. Who cares about an MVP right now? Where is the MVP? Not in the playoffs. That's not where he is. So why would Joel Embiid care about that? If anything, Joel Embiid would want to be playing better than he is to prove to the voters that he was actually the MVP and that they got it wrong, which I actually think that he is. They were down 0-2. They needed him. And as banged up as he is, him being on the floor banged up is better than the next option. So what happened last night, I am not putting at the feet of Joel Embiid, who I have the utmost respect for, and being out there in the condition that he is in just shows the effort that he's giving for this Sixers team. And last night was just an overall dud. Again, I don't know why you need extra motivation to get up for a playoff game, but whatever happens with that Sixers team last night, I'm not going to put it on Joel Embiid, even though he is the leader of the team. Someone else has to step up. That's what championship teams are about. People stepping up in big moments, role players, your other stars, your coach making adjustments to stop the freight train that is the Miami Heat so that you don't get blown out in a playoff game like that. So we'll see how things go the rest of this series, but I'm going to say I didn't warn you about Miami James Harden.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.